The Polish cavalrymen were eager to enter combat. They were armed with rifles, sabres, and lances. The memories of the Winged Hussars that expelled the Turkish invaders from Europe in the late 1600s inspired the men to charge against a different type of enemy, German infantrymen from the Wehrmacht. But there was one thing the Turkish did not have 3 centuries earlier: tanks. When the courageous Polish cavalry encountered the imposing Nazi Panzers on the first day of the invasion near Mokra and Krojanty in 1939, their selfless moves echoed through history in the form of romanticized myths. Yet, while the incidents were manipulated by the enemy for propaganda purposes, the contribution of the mounted forces to the overall Allied effort was paramount. Indeed, it was the valiant Polish cavalry that conducted the last successful mounted charge in history, near the town of Schoenfeld, where their unwavering determination ignited a fierce blaze of defiance against the relentless backdrop of enemy tanks. Expanding the Reich. On March 13, 1939, the Heer entered Czechoslovakia, occupying Prague. The Reich then declared Bohemia and Moravia a protectorate of the Reich. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain knew his appeasement policy had failed and began to mobilize the British army for a possible conflict. France did the same, and Poland was next. The Third Reich turned to its neighbor and asked for a solution to the Danzig Corridor, a territory in Pomerania that provided Poland with access to the Baltic Sea. The corridor divided East Prussia from the rest of Germany, and Hitler requested to build an extraterritorial freeway and a railway through the Polish corridor to connect Greater Germany, East Prussia, and the free city of Danzig. Poland refused, prompting the Reich to sign the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union to partition Eastern Europe between them. Meanwhile, the Poles were assured full military support from the British and the French if Germany decided to attack their country. Nevertheless, a possible invasion of Poland by the USSR was never mentioned between the UK and France, as both countries were still trying to convince Joseph Stalin to join their side if war erupted with Germany. Little did they know was skillfully manipulating the situation, having clandestinely chosen to collaborate with Hitler and lay claim to eastern Poland. The Polish Army. The Polish army gained considerable military experience after the country regained its independence in 1918 and fought against the rising Soviet Union to preserve its autonomy once World War I ended. Before the German invasion of September 1939, Poland disposed of over 1 million soldiers. Even so, the Polish Air Force was outnumbered and underarmed against the might of the German Luftwaffe and the Soviet Air Force. The Poles lacked modern aircraft and, more importantly, the necessary numbers to fight 2 invaders attacking from the west and the east. A Polish infantry division comprised almost 16,500 soldiers armed with some 320 machine guns, 100 anti-tank rifles, and an array of artillery of all sizes. In addition to the infantry, Poland disposed of 2 armored brigades, 4 tank battalions, and over 30 companies of Polish-made TKS tankettes. The most common vehicle was the 7TP light tank. Polish warfare was heavily influenced by the 1920s confrontations of the Polish-Soviet War. During the conflict, the Poles employed cavalry as mobile infantry, providing the ground army with excellent mobility to defend the country's new eastern frontiers. As a result, the Poles had 38 cavalry regiments split into 11 brigades, encompassing over 10% of the entire army. These regiments would see action when the first Panzers rolled into Polish territory during the September 1939 invasion. Volynska Cavalry Brigade. The Soviet Union, Germany, France, Italy, and other countries that would later join the fray also employed thousands of horses for combat. From artillery and supplies to mobile cavalry and troop transportation, they were key in most European armies of the time. By the end of the conflict, Germany and the USSR alone had deployed a staggering combined total of over 6 million horses. The Volynska, or Volhynian Cavalry Brigade, would become one of the few Polish cavalry units to see large-scale conflict against the German troops that crossed the border. The brigade was formed in April 1937 and comprised recruits from the region of Volhynia. The men came from the towns of Dubno, Ostrog, Runa, and others in the area. As tensions rose with Germany, the brigade was fully mobilized by August 1939 and was scheduled to fight in the first wave. The cavalrymen were attached to Brigadier General Victor Tomés and his Piotrków operational group. The main objective of the Valinian Cavalry Brigade was to serve as a mobile reserve and cover the planned retreat of the 7th Infantry Division as the Germans advanced towards Poland's center. Deep in the woods. On September 1st, 1939, the 4th Panzer Division attempted to flank Polish positions near Mokra, employing anti-tank weapons and machine gun fire to hinder the German tanks. The Polish resistance caused some setbacks for the Panzer forces. In a hasty retreat, many German motorcyclists were captured. Then, the 4th Panzer Division came across Polish anti-tank guns and cavalry. Simultaneously, German assault groups encountered difficulties, with the westernmost group managing to capture a village, but the central group panicking and fleeing, unaware of nearby Polish forces. Nevertheless, the German advance threatened the Polish northern flank, leading to the deployment of reinforcements. In response, the Germans launched a concentrated assault on the northern flank in the village of Mokra, employing tanks, artillery, and air support. However, the Polish defense was strengthened by the arrival of an armored train, and the 19th Regiment regrouped on the other side of the railroad. The Germans sustained their attack on the main positions held by the Polish 21st Regiment near Mokra, but the Polish defenders, supported by the armored train and additional reinforcements, fought back tenaciously. During the chaos, the Polish 21st Armored Division and a cavalry squadron unintentionally encountered a German tank column, but managed to break free with minimal casualties, capturing the forest to the northwest of Mokra and disorienting the German tanks. The Panzers later returned to Mokra, but the Polish 21st Regiment skillfully withdrew under cover of smoke. At 3 p.m., the Germans launched another assault, weakening the Polish defense and resulting in scattered skirmishes. To reinforce their lines, the Polish 2nd Mounted Rifle Regiment was ordered to join the defense. Polish tankettes briefly halted the German advance, and the arrival of armored trains further disrupted the enemy's plans. The battle had concluded by 5 p.m., with the Polish infantry managing to hold their ground, although they were pushed deeper into the forest. Krojanty. On that same fateful evening, near the village of Krojanty, a subsequent charge would forever etch its place in the annals of war. The 18th Pomeranian Uhlans, a courageous cavalry unit, embarked on a daring charge that would become an iconic episode frequently recounted in revered accounts of the conflict. However, the truth behind this incident diverges from popular recollection. At the helm was Colonel Kazimierz Mostolaers, a seasoned leader. When his scouts relayed the presence of enemy troops concealed within the forest, the veteran of 2 major wars recognized the perfect moment to deliver a surprise blow. Resolved, he issued the command for 2 squadrons, consisting of approximately 250 brave soldiers, to initiate a charge. The Polish cavalrymen propelled themselves forward with a ferocity that instilled fear in their adversaries. Sabres and lances clashed, wreaking havoc and disarray among the German infantrymen, who hastily scattered, seeking refuge in the surrounding woods. However, the triumph proved fleeting. Suddenly, German armored cars materialized on the scene, unleashing a relentless storm of machine gun fire upon the exposed Polish ranks. Vulnerable in the open clearing, the Polish soldiers desperately sought to escape the onslaught, but were tragically cut short. Over a third of their comrades succumbed to the withering hail of German fire. The survivors retreated towards a secondary defensive line, seeking solace and cover behind a nearby hillock. Mythical figures. The following day, German war correspondents arrived at the scene and falsely portrayed the Poles as charging the tanks at Krojanty. This story quickly spread around the world, even appearing in publications like Time magazine and the New York Times. Indeed, the Germans used the myth as propaganda to undermine the Polish military and promote German superiority. Similarly, the Soviets embraced the myth to discredit Poland's military leadership. The Poles, on the other hand, resent this myth as it detracts from their significant contributions to the Allied war effort, such as the achievements of the Polish 303rd Squadron and their role in cracking the Enigma cipher machines. The enduring nature of the myth can be attributed in part to the presence of a significant number of cavalry brigades within Poland in 1939. Although their primary purpose was not to charge tanks, these brigades, equipped with artillery, armored vehicles, and anti-tank weapons, served as rapid reaction forces for flank coverage. The cavalry used their horses for mobility and would dismount to engage the enemy on foot. They were only intended to charge infantry caught off guard, or possibly enemy cavalry. Charges against armored units were considered illogical, and military experts have stated that professionally trained soldiers would not willingly engage a vastly superior force in open battle. In reality, there were several Polish cavalry charges in September 1939, none of which were against tanks, and most were successful. What is true, however, is that the gallant Polish cavalry did conduct the last successful cavalry charge in history, almost 6 years later. Hill 157. As World War II drew to a close on March 1, 1945, the First Army of the Polish People's Army was on the move, advancing into Pomerania. Their goal was to reach the Baltic Sea and the area of Stettin, which was about 50 miles northwest of Schoenfeld. The Germans had constructed a series of fortifications to defend Pomerania, and Schoenfeld was part of their third line of defense. The initial Polish attack on Schoenfeld, led by infantry and tanks from the 2nd Infantry Division, faced difficulties. The wetlands in the area made it challenging for the Polish forces to advance, and the Germans held the advantage with their well-positioned infantry and anti-tank guns on a small hill known as Hill 157. However, the tide turned when the 1st Warsaw Independent Cavalry Brigade joined the battle. 2 squadrons of cavalry, supported by a horse artillery company, devised a clever plan. They used a ravine to conceal their approach and charged through the smoke of burning tanks, catching the Germans by surprise. The swift-mounted assault overwhelmed the German anti-tank gun positions on the hill. Following this success, the cavalry, along with infantry and tanks, launched an attack on the village itself. The Germans, faced with the unexpected development, began to retreat. The Poles took advantage of the situation, consolidating their gains in and around the village. By the end of the day, the Polish forces had secured Schoenfeld, but not without losses. Approximately 147 Polish troops lost their lives, in contrast to 500 German soldiers. The Battle of Schoenfeld holds a special place in history, marking the last ever mounted charge by the Polish cavalry. It's also the last confirmed successful cavalry charge in world history. In commemoration, a plaque now stands near the edge of Zariska, formerly Schoenfeld, as a reminder of the courage and triumph of the Polish forces. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our Dark Doc channel to find more content about the clash between many European nations against the invading German and Soviet armies. And for many more epic tales of courage, don't miss out on the rest of our Dark Documentaries channels, where we publish regularly. Stay tuned.